Well, welcome to Prism Break. This is an exciting episode, and not just exciting, but it's also a new format. This is our first opportunity to bring a guest on via our Zoom, and we're excited because this is going to allow us even more flexibility to bring awesome speakers and impactful content to our audience. So sit back and enjoy our show, and hopefully we'll have no technical difficulties in this first go round. So I'm Donna Stevenson, as you all know, President and CEO of Early Warning Software and Prism Compliance Management. And as you know, our Prism Break is our podcast episode for us to bring relevant information in the area of small business development, operational excellence, labor compliance, economic development. And today, our episode is going to feature women in operations and leadership, building systems to scale. And so why is that relevant for us this month? Well, number one is it's Women's History Month. And we know the impact that women have had in our country has been tremendous. I can just think of many innovations that have enabled our lives to be more sustainable and impactful. Um, the practices that we bring to health are essential, for our families. And of course, like Prism, technology, right, that enables us to more effectively help customers generate an economic impact by having small businesses participate in it. And so the platform today, as we celebrate Women's History Month, we want to highlight strategies for women in the public administration. As you all know, many of our customers are public administrators, and we rely on these women to effectively lead every day. They must have operational systems in place to be able to support the wide and breadth of functions that are required to support not just the employees of their organizations, but also the ultimate citizens that they may service. And so as we prepare for the National Forum for Black Public Administrators annual conference, I'm actually happy to have Ms. Marcia Connor with us today, and also to be able to speak to operational excellence. It's also a pleasure to have Diane Bullock, our Vice President of Operations, joining us together again as well. So we look forward to having an impactful session today. And so let's just get started. Let's jump in. And I'm going to ask Marcia to just share a little bit about herself and what she's doing as Executive Director as National Forum for Black Public Administrators, which we're here out going to call NFBPA. That's how we know the family.
Well, good morning, Donna, and thank you so much for that introduction and really the opportunity to share today about NFBPA. And as a female leader of the organization, happy to be here as a part of Women's Month, but also to say good morning to Diane as well. I think it's the first time that we've been able to meet, but welcome aboard for PRISM. I just also want to just say thank you to Donna. Donna is our most recent past president of our National Corporate Council for NFBPA. So I'm certainly pleased to be here in the capacity as Executive Director of NFBPA. So Donna, I started in the public sector. I've had about 20 years or more in the public sector, have held probably many positions as budget director, assistant city manager, and city manager. So in my mind, it prompted me, this is a great position to transition from public sector to working for an association like the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. Here, as the executive director, we provide leadership development programs for those in the public sector. Our overall mission is to prepare the next generation of public sector leaders. And so we address and provide leadership development for those who are considering careers from college, right out of college. We do a mentoring program. We have Executive Leadership Development Institute. We also do something for the leaders of your cities and counties across the country called the City Manager Symposium. So any facet of your introduction to public sector, we in fact are there to provide leadership development and to support you. In addition to that, we also have a consulting arm of NFBPA called Institute for Excellence. So those of you who are transitioning out of the public sector, it's a great opportunity to utilize your skills and assist us in providing consultant services to really local governments across the country.
That's awesome. So that brings me then to Forum 2026. How does Forum help you fulfill that mission, Marcia?
Well, we say that Forum is really the culmination annually of all the things that we do. It is what I consider the place where you go if you're in the public sector for best practices. Great opportunity to network, to hear speakers, but also to be introduced to new technologies. We are here to support you in the work that you do. It is our annual training. We call it our best in class.
Awesome. Well, we've been a partner with NFBPA. Prism was elated to be able to elevate its partnership in the last few years, and is always a great opportunity for us to present and engage with the attendees. And they bring such energy and intellect to the group that it's always a great forum for us to even gather information from the participants through surveys and things of that nature, because it's unusual to be able to have that many leaders in one place at one time, right? And just like you said, it's an excellent opportunity to network as well. And so, since we're talking about strategies and operational excellence and scaling, just how is it, Marcia, that you have helped the forum grow? Because what we've seen since I've been attending is that the attendance is growing, and not just the attendance, but the complement of offerings has grown. Can you say a little more about that?
Well, this year's theme, it says, is grounded in greatness. And we couldn't do what we do without the support of our corporate sponsors, such as Prism, Early Morning Software. We have a number of those, but literally, I feel like it's an operation that starts the day that the last one closes. We begin thinking about the next year. We gather a team of experts across the country, whether it's housing, technology, leadership development, economic development, to begin to think about what are the issues or areas we believe over the next year our members will be confronted with, the kinds of topics they'd be interested in. We planned the conference really as I call it a three-legged stool. We have our conference planning and evaluation committee, which is made up of volunteers, both from the private sector and the public sector. We also engage a conference planner, and we have our national office team. And so between the three of those entities, we're able to work to pull that great conference off. I say to people often, you see the smooth duck on top, but the legs under it are just kicking and flipping the entire time. But it takes that team really to pull together the conference. And we could not do it without the support of our conference planners, but we also the advice and the guidance of those who are working day to day in the public sector, as
Mhm.
well as we have a team of individuals who handle the speakers. We have those who handle our scholarship program. We have a marketing team. We also use technology to be able to capture it all through registration. And I think that all of that comes together that one week of the year, and we all go, "Phew, it's on, and we're ready to move." And so it takes a lot to be able to do that. We've grown a lot from doing the paper things of registering. Even our students who participate in the poster contest and scholarship, we have a platform that they can upload their information. We rate posters through technology. So that has really helped us in terms of being able to turn around things very quickly. Registration, we use technology to register. We've been playing around with trying to get our sponsors to use technology to register and also pledge their support. We're going to have to work with that a little more because they really do like that personal one on hand conversations with us in terms of what's new for the conference, how they can participate and be more impactful. So we're working through that. I say stay tuned for next year. Hopefully we'll be able to implement that as well. So we won't have to do so many meetings and hand holding in terms of getting that done. But technology has really moved us forward. And what I think is that conferences have evolved.
Yeah.
Even as you see us, we don't call it the exhibit center anymore. We call it the innovation center, where
Right.
innovation happens and anything around technology can be presented there. Whether you're in the area of computers, innovation in terms of how you do your work, it really is a great place to come aboard. And we really kicked it off very well in Baltimore a couple years ago.
Mhm.
I was so excited to see so many people attending the Technology Center for workshops. Clearly, we're in an age where AI is probably the most talked about thing at the conference this year. So it's going to be great examples of it. Our speaker for our corporate luncheon is going to talk about the evolution of AI and how it can help in so many things. And he often says it's beyond your chat GPT. There's so much more you
Well
can
beyond.
with
Yeah.
technology. But we
So
also have the other side of that in discussions, how as a public sector you can engage your community around technology, but also we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges of implementing, how governments can use it more effectively, but also how do you put the boundaries in terms of technology that's there, in terms of not taking away the people person being able to do your job, but also as it can be enhanced, even in communities, how citizens can use it, how it can be better utilized for service delivery.
awesome. Awesome. Well, one of the things that I want to applaud you for, and as we talk about operational excellence, right, and leadership, um, certainly in this last decade, we've had some hurdles, right? Things that we just couldn't anticipate, like the pandemic, right? And even now in today's climate, um, where organizations may have been told not to support organizations that are have race in their name, and just the climate international, right? But even with that, how many years has NFBPA been conducting forum? Is it what's the number 42?
It's actually 43. We're
43. Okay.
2026 will be number 43. So yes.
Wonderful. So
Yes.
that is incredible. Tell me a little bit of how your leadership role has evolved, right, to be able to manage those dynamics and then still be successful, because that's something women every day deal with. And sometimes there is thought that we can't handle these types of challenges, right? Share with me a little bit about your leadership style and how have you been able to adapt this organization in the midst of things that are totally out of your control, but be
Well,
successful anyway.
the first thing I'd say, we have a great board of directors. No
Mhm.
one can, I'm lucky that I have a board of directors made up of public sector individuals who really are on the ground facing some of the same things we face every day as an organization. But because of that, what we've decided is, they say, well, you're a DEI organization. Well, what we will say to you, we have been providing service since 1983. So, 43 years, we've seen a lot. We've had to, change during the the COVID, we were 6 weeks out from a conference in Austin and had to pivot to a virtual conference when, in fact, the convention center was turned into a hospital. And so, you have to be nimble in your approach. Curveballs are always going to be thrown at you. You have to be flexible. But I do have a team that's also working with us. People don't believe that we have three people in the national office, but we've been able to pivot and have people across the country who bring their talents to us. And so that has helped as well. But one of the things that we've said during the times of the last year, we did very well in San Francisco. And I'm not going to say that we haven't been hit this year and felt some of the impact of corporations being a little cautious in terms of support. And so we've had to adjust as well. We have to think about our programming, streamline it a little bit, but also think about how we are able to cut costs, do things a little more efficiently.
Mhm.
And, this year we may not have all the bells and whistles, but we're going to have the best content for you, great
Sure.
speakers, opportunity to still network. We do believe that one of the things we are at the forefront of this discussion, and we want NFBPA to be a place where public sector leaders can come and share their challenges, but also be a place where we can also be part of the solution. As a result of that, we have our public policy team, which has been meeting monthly. We have been tackling ideas, topics such as ICE, how do employees pivot, how organizations are being able to handle employees who are being impacted. We've also joined together with the National Organization of Black the Noble Leadership for Executives, also the African American Mayors Association, and NFBPA. About a month or two ago, we entered into an MOU so we can more effectively address some of the issues that are being faced by our communities because we believe we are the face of local government. Where else is it going to happen? When things happen at the federal level, many people can't go and just spend a day or have an opportunity to go to a council meeting or to express themselves directly. And what happens at the federal level eventually trickles down to the local level. We've seen the impact of the reduction in grants. We've seen the reduction in terms of how to help create policy. So we have a team we've been working with. We've also have hired support for us on the public policy area to begin to be a little more vocal about what those initiatives are, how you can face them. We provide information on what to do. We also try to have a crystal ball about some of the things we hear are coming down the pipe and using some of the cities who are going through those challenges to be
Sure.
able to share those with us and become really a forecaster of what not to do. We recently had a panel talking about ICE coming into communities and how
Mhm.
really one mayor connects with another mayor. This is how it happened. These are things we would have done differently. We've had those discussions with managers. So you will see some of those discussions actually spilling over into our annual conference this year.
Awesome.
And so what we want to do is be the place where you can come, where local governments feel safe having those conversations with us about challenges. And then it actually helps us prepare our platform for webinars, for workshops, for annual conferences when we look at some of those challenges. One of the other ones that we'll be talking about is how we're doing the pivot from MBE programs and the impact of federal programs and what are local governments doing because we know that small businesses are great for communities.
Mhm.
And the relationships that communities have built with small businesses and diversity really makes for a better local government, makes for better communities. And
Well,
so,
that's a great uh, segue to what our topic is going to be this
okay.
year, which is the small business uh, all inclusive, right? And how, to your point, small businesses will actually grow economic development in communities. So we're really looking forward to that. But the net of what I took away, Marcia, is when we're facing these challenges, our leaders, whether you're in a small business, whether you're in a public sector entity or a nonprofit entity like NFBPA, the key thing is partnering
Mhm.
to collaborate, and don't try to go it alone. And then pivot, use the information that you gather to learn to adapt. And sometimes folks want to resist change, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can look change in the face and then facilitate the change to produce a more innovative outcome. So
Absolutely.
that's one of the things that we like to challenge the leaders that are in our audience, because small businesses face so many different challenges, and then our customer base, the leaders that are in those roles that are managing DEI and small business programs, many of them felt that the rug was pulled
Hmm.
from underneath of them when the emphasis of DEI shifted. And so, but we were ready for them. We anticipated the change. And so we said, hey, if it doesn't happen, then okay, none the wiser. But we anticipated it in introducing frameworks to help customers adapt their policy, adapt their practices, and ultimately yield an even greater performance outcome. So I'm going to bring Diane into this conversation because one of the reasons that we brought Diane onto our team was because of her expertise in public administration, excuse me, and she was there as a leader and had to do operational excellence, had to support organizations in scaling, and then also sometimes in reducing. So she's had this dynamic experience. And while her experience has primarily been in the federal government, she also came with experience in knowing the responsibilities of inclusion. So, Diane, jump in here and tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in helping organizations scale, but also adapt in these types of challenging times.
Well, thank you, Donna, and hello to everyone, and nice to meet you, Marcia. So, yes, as Donna, as you mentioned, I spent approximately 26 years in the federal government. Similar to Marcia's background, I worked in a number of different verticals and gained a lot of great experience along the way. And most of it was around sort of operational excellence. And Marcia hit on a lot of the themes that I'm going to talk about today. But, for me, when I think about operational excellence and then how to scale systems, a scalable system is one that still works. It still works even when everything around you changes. So you both mentioned the pandemic, right? It caught us all by surprise, but at some point, everybody went home. We sequestered, but your processes picked back up. You started having meetings again. You started conducting the business of your organizations again. You had to shift a little bit and pivot, but your systems still work. So those scalable systems will work regardless of what happens in an organization. If the organization grows, if you have a scalable system in place, everything still works. If the organization has to shift, if you have systems in place, everything works. So what those ingredients are is making sure that you have standardization in your processes. So those are things like your standard operating procedures, checklist, your workflows, your mapping, but also making sure that you've got a little bit of flexibility, right? So your systems should be consistent, but not so rigid that if something happens, it breaks the organization. Another big thing around scalable systems is just making sure that you've pulled out that institutional knowledge that we all have. We have a lot of folks that have worked in their positions for a long, long time, and they've got all the processes in their head. So we've got to be able to pull those things out of the sort of hero mindset or the hero systems and making sure that we're documenting them so that if anybody new walks into the organization, they can go to your SOPs, they can go to your playbook, and they're able to kind of pick up and move on.
So,
Oh,
so
sorry.
this is kind of a little bit, I just want to bring a little context to this, right? So we have two methodologies that we use in implementing PRISM, right? So we have our elite, and it has a discrete set of steps and responsibilities, both for our staff and the client. And then we have an enterprise methodology, which has a whole lot more tasks, right? And phases. And And I just want to give the audience some context because we're talking kind of generally about systems, but it's essentially how they are operating their business, right? So kind of give an example to tease this out, because I really want leaders to understand what we're speaking about, because oftentimes I will meet an entrepreneur and they have a phenomenal product, but what they're lacking to help that product scale or help that business go and grow outside of where they are today are these systems and these processes. So dig a little deeper for me, Diane, such that the audience comes away with more.
So certainly. So going back to the example that you just gave, the 4D implementation and the elite implementation, one of the things that we're doing within our organization is we're really documenting those processes. So I am working, and it worked out really well because me being a new employee, relatively new in TEMS, I needed to learn those systems. So as I'm learning the systems and working with our practitioners within the organization, I'm documenting the workflows. I'm documenting how we're doing the processes. I'm spending a lot of time with the subject matter experts within the organization. And then together, we're also exploring and identifying ways that we can make the processes better, right? The team has done great work in terms of doing their implementations, but you can always improve your processes. I come from the school of thought that even if a process is 100%, as leaders, we should be looking at that process and still saying, how can we get it to 101%?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So whether you're running an accounting firm that basically does auditing end to end, or like Marcia having to execute this conference, like it looks like it's easy on the outside because all we do is swipe and register.
That's right.
But there's all these little engines running underneath that have to work together to come out and look amazing.
And Marcia talked about that, right? She's got 3 distinct systems that she's using. They have the same group that they're using. They start the next year's process the day after the conference. So she's got a repeatable process, and that's why the forum works, and that's why they continue to grow their audience year after year.
And so, Diane, and again, we make these things seem simple, but within an organization, there could be any myriad, right, of processes that work together. HR is working together with procurement, is working together with finance and general services, right? So all of these things have to work in tandem. How is it possible for a CEO, and Marcia, you can jump in here too, right? How do you be an expert in all these things and know how all of them are supposed to work in tandem, right? Talk to us about how is this possible, right? Because you might know your craft, but how do you learn those other components around it in order to make sure your organization, your city, your small business is going to be able to operate in a way that, yes, it exploits your product and exposes your excellence, but you're not falling apart in the seams inside, right? Because what happens sometimes is businesses will take on that next project, and it really exposes that those processes aren't working so well. So talk to us a little bit about how can we ensure those unique processes are working, especially if I may not have expertise in them.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think part of that is, number one, just making sure that you understand the business problems that you're trying to solve. Whenever I walk into a new organization and there's a process, I am going to ask the question, and Donna, you've probably heard me ask this: what is it that we're trying to solve here? Right. And then you can almost reverse engineer and walk backwards from that. So oftentimes in organizations, we try to get to the solution without really walking through the problem. So you have to fall back on your processes and make sure that you are diving into those solutions step by step. And again, it just kind of falls back to the different processes that you have in place. I think as leaders, it is very difficult for us to know every single thing that's
That's
happening
right.
in the organization, right? So a big part of that is making sure that you have the skills in place to do that, right? So you have to, and I know with small businesses, we can oftentimes be resource constrained, but making sure that the resources that you are bringing in can wear multiple hats and can do multiple things until you can get to that point where you scale, right? And then when you start to scale up your organization is doing great, you're profitable, your revenue looks great, then you start bringing in more people that have those specialized skill sets.
So
And
Marcia, does
I was
that
going to,
sound familiar? Because
yes, I was going to
that
say I
applies
could.
to small business, but I bet you that applies to even a regular city, right?
I was going to say absolutely. I was going to say you sound like what we're doing with NFBPA, and I will say while we've been around a long time, the other thing is we also have to look at our practices and always evaluate them. And so for me, one of the things I've said to my team after this forum, we really need to think about where we are in this time as an organization. Let's look and see what we're doing well, some things we can maybe stop doing, and then look at different methods. But I agree, the talent that you bring aboard and the people that you have working with you are really, really what's important. I think as a leader, you have to have a general working knowledge of how things work to be able to bring people and hire people, but you really do want to lean on that expertise of that individual who's coming there. And I was going to say, Diane, maybe we can have you come and talk to our team a little bit about this whole thing of, COPs and getting things together, because anything can happen at any moment. People's lives change, people move on, they get promoted, they change careers, and it's always important to have that those COPs that you can rely on. And I would say that's probably an area that we need to work on a little bit more in our organization in terms of that. I think we have the processes working together individually, but we really need to pull them all together because we never know what may happen, right?
That's
In
right.
terms of
That's right.
individuals. And I think COPs take on different types of things because when you say COPs, I remember once I did some projects at an airport where I had to write the COPs in purchasing. And I was like, oh, we've come such a long way in terms of being able to do that. So, because it feels like a daunting task, but
Yeah.
it really is
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Marcia. And organizations sometimes we can get so caught up in the firefighting and
The
the things
doing,
that are
that's
going
right.
on during the day-to-day work that we don't take the time to document. And you have to take that time. You've got to make sure that there's some element of strategic planning within your day. Even in my role, as I'm still, trying to get up to speed on what's going on in EMS, I have made sure that I carve out time once a week, just a half an hour, where I am documenting the things that Donna, as my CEO, said she wanted to accomplish. I've got to keep my eye on the prize to make sure I get those things done.
Absolutely.
No, and that's an excellent point. So one of the things I want to share with small business owners, especially our women, right? Because we are used to wearing multiple hats. It literally starts when we're still at home and we're having to do and take on so many responsibilities, right? And when women become business owners, oftentimes they're the technician in the business, right? They know their craft. So whether it's you're the gifted stylist, hairstylist, or nail stylist, right? Or you're the gifted engineer that is helping to develop, right, a product and code that product. What you're hearing is that your success is predicated on also having someone that has organizational and operational skills. And sometimes that is not the technician, that is the creative person. So I'll use my own business as the example. Okay. When we started our business, Cecil was our president. He was the chief technology officer, and he was the person that brought those innovative and ingenious, right, ideas. But it didn't take long after I joined the business with him for me to realize that the operational side, that was not his gift, right? And it's actually how we complemented one another. So just to give the example, he was that engineer who knew how to design, right, develop, and produce. I knew about those things because of my background at academically as a information systems major, right? But I didn't want to even do that work, even though I knew how to do it, right? So that was the benefit for me in joining with him, is that I understood what needed to be done. But what I brought was the business side. And so the complement, right, of our expertise and me knowing that, yes, what you produce needs a price. Yes, what you produce needs promotion. Yes, what you do needs operational practices around it was critical, right, for us to be successful. And so to your both of your points is you got to have a team. And so if you are that person and you don't have that expertise, you're going to need to build it around you. So that if your gift is the delivery, that creativity, then build the folks around you that can do those other elements, because you're going to need them to scale your operation, right? So whether you're a city manager and you come in with these phenomenal ideas of economic development and how to grow a city and policies, you're going to need people around you that can help fill those gaps, right? I think that's basically what what we're sharing, that leaders need to balance. But since this is Women's History Month, I do want to focus on why is it that women have been so phenomenally successful, right, in these roles? What can you say, a quality or two, Diane, and then Marcia, that you believe makes women so powerful in these roles?
Well, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of studies out there, and there's a lot of research out there that talks about the fact that women typically outperform men in leadership roles. And a lot, yes, yes. And a lot of it is around leadership competency. So, specifically, resilience, integrity, championing change, and self development. Women naturally and innately bring those things into the workplace. So that helps us to be really phenomenal leaders, just like our CEO, Donna.
Nice.
So I was going to say, Diane, you hit on those, because I was going to say flexibility is key, resilience, and I think empathy.
Yes, definitely.
That we bring to the workplace can be both our strength and our weakness. But I think that empathy in the workplace and leadership is, and we're so used to, I think, being able to handle more than one thing at a time. I think that's innately who we are as individuals. But I agree that you hit on all the key spots I would have hit on: resiliency, flexibility, leadership. But I think empathy is a part of that as well.
Yeah. And then just to add to Marcia's statement, that empathy is our organizational superpower. It really is. Because studies have also talked about the fact that when people leave organizations, they're not leaving the organizations, they leave their managers. Exactly. So being an empathetic leader, I think, helps to keep people in your organization, even when the going gets rough, because organizations have cycles. And, we may have periods where we have stressful, where we've got to scale up, but having an empathetic leader will help to tether people to the organization.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say, I know we're not saying men aren't empathetic, right?
No, I'm not saying that.
But there is, I think, a balance, like as you're saying, and there's some traits that women bring into the organization that create a dynamic, right? For support, growth, and things of that nature. And so, of course, likewise, we can't do it without them, right?
Absolutely.
But breaking down, I guess, the barriers in some of the male-dominated fields is still real, right? Can you all share a little bit about with our audience today about how can we still deal and adjust to those environments that are still heavily male dominated, right? We just saw in this past election for the first time, right? We actually got close to actually having a woman become president of the United States, right? Um, and but we still ended up with another male, right? How do we begin to break? And I'm not going to. This discussion is not how do we break that barrier specifically, because we don't have
We'd be here
time.
all day. We'd be here all day.
But that's just the same scenario, right? Of in other organizations, in other industries, where we have shown our capabilities, where we've shown our intellectual capabilities, but yet we still find ourselves sometimes the only in a room, right? Talk to our audience a little bit about how do we adapt, right? And how can we continue to help to break down those barriers?
Well, Donna, I still think it's important to say that if I see it, I can believe it, right? So
Mhm.
we truly have to continue to have women who go to those non-traditional careers. We need to support them as they work there. I think mentoring is really important, whether you're being mentored by a male or a female, and
Mhm.
remembering that you were the only at only one time, and being able to bring others and give them the opportunity to be promoted as well. You know, I still believe you bring your authentic self to the workplace. I think you still bring your skills, your knowledge to the workplace. But we also have to learn the workplace environment. We have to learn to be political. We also have to learn to be strong when we need to be strong, be lenient when we need to be lenient. But also, I still say you have to stand your ground as a female. And I think as we continue to see more women breaking barriers and continuing to be in different careers, we will begin to. It'll be a natural piece, right? It won't be the exception as we continue to see that. And I think we see that even in city management, a field that was once dominated by men. When you think about local government now, it's about 60 or 70% female, but the leadership at the top continues to be dominated by males. We're
Mhm.
beginning to see that barrier being broken, where I think councils are beginning to feel more comfortable with leadership of women, and so we're seeing more of them at the senior level. I'm going to put a plug here because one of the things that we're going to do at Forum is our Leadership Women's Session. We're going to be bringing 4 women. There are actually 6 women in the state of Georgia who are now leading counties across that state. Some of the growing counties, some of them are rural, but that's amazing. And they're all African American.
Wow.
So we're seeing those barriers being broken, and we're seeing women continuing to challenge that. But I think the more we can open doors, as I think probably many of us have been first, and bringing others behind us, it will be something that we won't have to talk about. But we will continue to have to, I think, be your authentic self, be the best person you can in terms of that, your skill level, but also be willing to challenge some of the systems that are systematically have kept women from being able to be promoted to the CEO of an organization.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
What
Thank you.
Marcia said, absolutely perfect. And let's face it, the concept of work historically did not include women, right?
That's
The concept of work, the 9 to 5 concept that we're all used to, was really centered around the male breadwinner. So while we continue to be marginalized, I think in some spaces, for the women like us that get into a role, it is our responsibility to reach back. It's our responsibility to pull the next woman up. It's our responsibility to amplify them and support them. The mentoring piece is very key. I had a lot of great mentors throughout my career. Most of them were women, but I also had male mentors, right?
Mhm.
So something that I tell people is you may need to get a mentor that doesn't look like you, right? So it
Mhm.
might be a male who can
Mhm.
teach you some of those navigational things and the things that you need to do. But like Marcia said, keep showing up, be your authentic self. Networking is key, right? Like networking to get to where you need to be. All of those things will continue to make us successful. But again, there's a lot of research out there that talks about the fact that women in organizations generally help the organizations to be more profitable.
Awesome, awesome. Man, this is such a powerful discussion, and glad we've been able to come together to celebrate Women's History Month. This is also my birthday month, right? So,
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
the fact that March, it falls in line, with Women's History Month, I would just like really be remiss if I did not, just mention how purposeful I believe, our lives are. And I sometimes honestly think people take for granted that if you live in your purpose, you almost can't fail,
That's
right?
right.
If you're pursuing what God has provision for you and you're doing it in a positive way, you can almost attract, right, the things that you need to be able to propel, right, your success. Those partners that are needed, right, to support you. And again, this is whether you're in a nonprofit leading, like Marcia is, or whether you're in a small business, like Diane and I are, or if you're in a city, which I'm really excited to hear these leaders that are going to be promoted at Forum. Uh, in those roles, we have a significant responsibility to not only lead, but you're right, Diane, and Marcia, we must also pull up that next generation. I had a colleague mention to me recently that there's some, I don't know, dichotomy or something going on. And I'm going to say it in the social media space where I don't spend a lot of time intentionally, that there's a perception that women, mature women, aren't supporting the younger generation. So, one of the things I would say to that is if folks find that that's the situation that they're in, they may not be in the right circles, right? Because we know that there are circles that are intentional, right, in their reaching back, literally. Um, and so they may need to shift the circles that they're in. There are groups that host emerging leaders. Like NFBPA has an emerging leaders forum 4 times a year. They're intentionally reaching back, right, to the young people to say, come on up. So I would say if you're experiencing that type of conduct, maybe you're looking for it within your organization that you may work for. You may need to step out and find a trade organization or social organization that says that that's a part of their mission.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But one of the things I also want to challenge us to do, and both of you have said this, is ask yourself if you are that mature leader, and that leadership doesn't come with age, that leadership comes with responsibility. So you could be 25 and be a mentor, right? So ask yourself, do you have a protege, right? Or do you have proteges? And like you said, many of us could take an hour out of our month to basically be able to connect with someone and help that young woman be able to learn something or gain something. Really, it's 12 hours, out of a year minimum that we could actually make an impact. So I would encourage, folks to say, hey, do I have a protege? And who am I actually, helping out? So that's one of the things I'd like to challenge for us to have as a challenge in Women's History Month. Um, it's certainly one of the things that I already do and probably sometimes overextend myself in some ways. And sometimes I feel bad after speaking. I'll get lots and lots of requests to be a mentor. So now I even challenge my team members because it's not just people in leadership roles that can be mentors. Everyone has something that they can share that would help inspire and encourage a woman to do. So as we begin to wrap up a little bit, um, I wanted you all to share with me how you might be celebrating Women's History Month. Have you all given any thought to it?
You know, Donna, as you were talking about the mentoring, I currently mentor two young women, I'd say younger than me, and I was just thinking, it is Women's Month. We are in different cities and different states, but you made me think about, well, what can we do to celebrate each other?
Yeah.
I have two groups of friends. I have a group from college of women and a group from high school of women. The ones from high school, we actually got together for a little reunion a couple months ago, which was really nice, right? And then I have a group of college friends that, we haven't seen each other in a while. We'll probably get together sometime in May. But it's a great opportunity to just bring a group of women together. I remember when I moved to Austin, I didn't know anyone. And one of the things I did was I decided to invite, man, maybe 25 women to have tea.
Hmm.
And that 25 turned into like 50 because once people heard about it, they're like, oh, I would love to come and network. And it was such a great opportunity for women to get together. So, Donna, you and a couple of us in Prince George's County and in Baltimore, there's some folks in Virginia, we sometimes get together. So I think it's a time for us to just have maybe a cup of tea together, right? Just get
Awesome.
together
Awesome.
and do something that's simple and nice and
Yes.
celebrate each other.
So, Marsha, I want to challenge you that when you're with those women, if you would just ask them, do you have a protege? Okay.
I will. And
Oh,
most of them do. They're very good at mentoring. We do a
awesome.
pretty good job of trying to bring someone else along. So, yeah.
Nice, nice. What about you, Diane? How are you going to
Oh
celebrate
gosh,
women?
yes, I love this whole conversation. So for the past 10 years, Friday has been my mentoring days. I specifically have a day set aside. So anytime I
Wow.
meet someone, anytime someone connects with me and they want to get on my calendar, I tell them Friday is my mentoring days and I will set aside time. And those engagements have gone from, just a conversation or two or a structured,
Hmm.
12-month engagement. I was actually in an organization, Executive Women in Government, where I was voted the Mentor of the Year because I
Oh,
had two mentees.
wonderful.
Yes. So I am very intentional about doing, mentoring, just giving back, giving the seeds that I've learned throughout my journey to other people. And then in terms of organizations, I'm in a number of different organizations. As most of the people know, Donna and I are both proud card carrying members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority
And
Incorporated.
so is
Oh, my,
Marsha.
And
my.
so is Marcia, yes. So there's always an
A
opportunity
mentor.
in the
Absolutely.
organization, right? To mentor and to get together. We have a lot of efforts, a lot of initiatives planned for Women's History Month. And then just in my personal network, I have so many dope women that are just aligned with, from line sisters to sorors. I'm going to give a shout out to my biggest mentor, which is my mom. She'll probably watch this at some point. Just watching her kind of navigate her space and do what she did to take care of my sister and I, like that. She continues to be the shining light in front of me as I do what I do.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you for being a part of Prism Break this Women's History Month. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be celebrating because it's my birthday.
It's your
Well,
birthday.
it's your
And
birthday.
it's very interesting that in Italian, women is said as Donna.
Ah,
So,
Yes,
and I
yes.
learned that when I was visiting Italy a couple of years ago, and I kept asking, why is my name everywhere? Right? It was in the department store. It was on the bathroom wall, door. I was like, why is it? And finally, someone said, that's because Donna means woman. So I am letting you know that Women's History Month and my birthday, I'm going to celebrate to the hill. I'm going to make sure, Diane, that I tap into my proteges and have some good tea with them. Like Marcia, I love
Yes.
tea, and to have some quality time with them. So again, I want to thank you all for sharing your time and your talents on Prism Break. I want to encourage our audience to make sure they follow us on our social media handles. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. We are in our planning phase for our national conference, Compass, which is we'll be sending out save the date information before the end of the month. So we'll be excited to announce where Compass Institute will take place. And we also always look forward to having our PRISM user group attend our Compass conference because they get extra special treatment, but they also learn a heck of a lot about PRISM, the software, and how it's transforming communities. Our most recent case study release was for the Cincinnati Metro and how they're using their small business programs to have a huge impact and to make a difference for small businesses in that region. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, our Prism One promotion. This is a limited time promotion where organizations can take advantage of end-to-end capabilities at an amazing price from our all-in-one platform. And so it's a great time for not just new customers, but even our existing customers can take advantage of the Prism One promotion. And it leads right up to where we will be releasing at the end of the year a new version, a new modernized, new innovative version of the Prism software. So we are super excited about that as well. So I'm going to leave with a few words that I came away with today. In order to have operational excellence and to have systems in place that are going to allow you to scale, these are all of the P words that I heard today. Partners. You must learn to pivot when change appears. You must have policies written and documented to make sure that if you're not there to talk about them, they're not up in your head, but they're actually on paper. And then you have to build a team with the right people around you because, yes, you'll know your craft, but you need to bring other talents around you to make sure that you have effective practices that can execute and show that your business or your city or your organization can deliver with quality. And yes, there's always going to be politics, but you're going to have to learn to navigate it, right? And you don't have to run from it, but you understand what place it has. And then lastly, again, my challenge is for everyone to find a protege or get together with your proteges this month if you don't have them. So until next time, when you join Prism Break again, we thank you again for being a part of this today and look forward to you visiting with us again soon.